Hey there, friend. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're diving into a topic that might challenge you a little, but I promise it's coming from a place of love and empowerment. We're talking about alcohol. Yep, the glass of wine at night, the happy hour cocktails, the just one that turns into three. Specifically, how alcohol affects our brain, our hormones, our sleep, and why it's a much bigger deal in midlife than we've been led to believe. Now, before we get started, let me say this clearly. This is not about shame. This is not about judgment. This is about information. Information that I wish I had known earlier in my own journey. You get to decide what you do with it. But I think we've spent too long being told that alcohol is harmless, that it's self-care, that it's part of being social, that we deserve it. And maybe that used to feel true. But now, if you're like me in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, you may have noticed that alcohol doesn't hit the same anymore. I'm going to be completely transparent and tell you that for years, I loved a fabulous bottle of wine. When we lived in California, one of our favorite things to do was go to the wineries on the weekends and try the new varietals and vintages. We had multiple wine club memberships, and it was a favorite way to spend a weekend day. And so I'll be honest and tell you that I still love a fabulous smoky hibiscus mezcalita. A favorite is still Taco Tuesday, complete with carne asada tacos and a spicy mezcal margarita. But where I used to have wine or cocktails 2 to 3 times a week, it is now 1 to 2 times a month. And it really wasn't originally done to truly improve my health. It was done because I noticed that I slept like garbage and I felt lethargic, tired, and like I was moving through molasses the day after drinking, even just a glass of wine or two. Maybe you've started waking up with anxiety after just one drink. Maybe your sleep feels off, your hormones feel all over the place, or the weight around your midsection just won't budge no matter what you do. You're not crazy and you're not broken. Your body is just changing. And alcohol, as normalized as it is, might be working against you in more ways than you realize. So today, we're unpacking the truth. We're talking about what alcohol really does in the body, especially a midlife body, and what happens when we finally start to listen to the signals it's been sending us all along. Let's start with the truth that most people don't want to say out loud. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. That means it literally damages your brain cells. And I know that sounds harsh, but when you understand why it matters, especially in midlife, it starts to make a lot of sense. Alcohol is made up of ethanol, and when you drink it, it quickly crosses the blood-brain barrier. That's why it changes how you feel so fast. You feel relaxed, maybe a little buzzy, your shoulders drop, and for a moment it feels like relief. But what's actually happening is that your brain is being slowed down. That buzz is really your brain underfunctioning. Neurons aren't firing the way they're supposed to. Your memory, your mood, your ability to focus, all of it is impacted. A new study out of Oxford followed 560,000 adults for up to 12 years and found these shocking results. Heavy drinkers had a 41% higher dementia risk, and any amount of alcohol at all was seen to damage the brain. The brain processes alcohol as a neurotoxin because that is exactly how it sees it. And here's what's especially important for women. We metabolize alcohol differently than men. We have less of the enzyme that breaks down alcohol in the stomach. That means we absorb more of it into our bloodstream, and we feel the effects more intensely, even if we're drinking the same amount. Now layer on midlife, perimenopause, or menopause, when estrogen levels are fluctuating. Estrogen affects how your body processes alcohol too. So when estrogen drops or spikes, alcohol can hit you even harder. One drink might feel like 2. Your tolerance changes and your response changes. You might feel more anxious the next day. You might get more emotional or irritable. You might find your sleep is garbage, even if you fell asleep quickly. Men experience changes too. Lower testosterone, slower metabolism. But for women, the hormonal shifts during midlife make alcohol a much more disruptive force than it used to be. What felt like no big deal in your 20s and 30s might now leave you wired, tired, foggy, puffy, and wondering what the heck is going on with your body. You're not imagining it. Your body has changed. And alcohol doesn't care about your intentions. It has a very real physiological effect, especially on the midlife brain. So let's really get into what alcohol does to the midlife brain and why women and men don't experience it the same way. Here's the thing. Most people never say out loud. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, and it directly affects the way your brain communicates with itself. It slows down the messages between neurons, the little messengers that help you think clearly, remember things, regulate your emotions, and stay focused. So that glass of wine that helps you unwind after a long day, it's not actually helping you relax. It's dulling your nervous system. That calming sensation is literally your brain functioning at a slower, less effective pace. That's why your reaction time slows, your judgment gets foggy, and your memory might get a little fuzzy. Your tolerance changes, but your habits may not. And that's when problems start creeping in. You may notice that one glass of wine gives you a headache. You can't sleep after drinking. You wake up feeling anxious. Or maybe you just feel a little off and can't quite explain why. That's not in your head. That's your hormones and your brain chemistry reacting to a substance your body is no longer able to handle the way it used to. Alcohol can also amplify mood swings, especially for women dealing with hormonal fluctuations. It lowers serotonin and dopamine over time, which means it can actually contribute to depression, anxiety, and irritability, especially the day after drinking. Combine that with brain fog, poor sleep, and midlife stress, and you've got a recipe for feeling completely off your game. Now let's talk about men in midlife, because they're not off the hook either. As men age, their testosterone levels decline, and alcohol accelerates that decline. Regular drinking can lower testosterone even further, which leads to fatigue, decreased libido, muscle loss, and weight gain, especially in the belly area. And guess what? Belly fat increases estrogen production in men, which throws their hormones out of whack too. So if your partner is moody, tired, and gaining weight around the middle despite working out, alcohol might be playing a bigger role than either of you realize. And then there's sleep, which takes a major hit for both men and women as we age. Alcohol might make you fall asleep faster because, again, it depresses your central nervous system. But it actually prevents your body from entering deep restorative sleep. It disrupts REM cycles, increases nighttime waking, and can lead to early morning cortisol spikes. That's why you often wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. after drinking, heart pounding, wide awake. Sleep is already harder in midlife due to hormone shifts. Add alcohol to the mix, and you're setting yourself up for a chronic state of exhaustion, which affects everything from your metabolism to your mental clarity to your emotional stability. So here's the bottom line. Alcohol isn't just no big deal in midlife. It's actually having a compounded impact on your brain, your hormones, your mood, your sleep, and your long-term health. And if you've been wondering why things just don't feel right anymore, why your energy is lower, your patience is thinner, or your mental sharpness is fading, it might not be just age. It might be the wine. And I say that not to shame you, but to empower you. Because when you know better, you can choose differently. And those small choices, they can change everything. Now let's get into the next piece that so many people don't connect to alcohol, but it's one of the most important when it comes to midlife health: blood sugar and inflammation. Let's start with blood sugar, because this is huge, especially for women who are dealing with stubborn weight, mood swings, energy crashes, and hormone issues. Here's what most people don't realize. Alcohol spikes your blood sugar and then causes a crash. Even if you're drinking something low carb, like a dry wine or a skinny cocktail, your liver still has to process that alcohol before it can do anything else. And while that's happening, your blood sugar is being thrown completely out of balance. So what does that actually look like in your day-to-day life? You drink a glass of wine or a cocktail at night. Your blood sugar spikes. You feel good at first, relaxed, maybe a little buzzed, maybe even more social or chatty. But a few hours later, you're wide awake at 2 a.m., your heart's racing, you're hot, you feel anxious, and you can't go back to sleep. That's your blood sugar crashing. And when that happens over and over again, it puts serious stress on your adrenals, your thyroid, and your overall metabolic health. And if you're already dealing with perimenopause or menopause, that blood sugar roller coaster just makes everything worse, from hot flashes to brain fog to mood swings to cravings. Stable blood sugar is the foundation of stable hormones, and alcohol completely disrupts that. Now let's talk about the other big piece of this puzzle: inflammation. And this is one of the things that really made a difference in my choices. Alcohol is one of the most inflammatory substances we put in our bodies. It doesn't matter if it's wine, beer, vodka, or some organic tequila you swear is cleaner. It's all processed by your liver, and it all creates an inflammatory response. When you drink, your gut lining becomes more permeable, which can lead to something called leaky gut. That means toxins, undigested food, and waste particles start to leak into your bloodstream, triggering an immune response. Your body goes into fight mode, producing inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. And those can cause everything from joint pain to fatigue to skin breakouts to autoimmune flares. And if you already have an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's, MOGAD, or lupus, alcohol can make your symptoms worse. Maybe not right away, but over time, it keeps your body in a chronic state of stress and irritation, where it never really gets a chance to fully heal. Inflammation is also one of the reasons alcohol contributes to weight gain, especially around the belly. When your body is inflamed, your cortisol levels rise. When cortisol is high, Your body holds on to fat, particularly visceral fat, which is the kind that wraps around your organs and drives even more inflammation and hormonal imbalance. It becomes a vicious cycle. You're inflamed. Your hormones are out of balance. Your sleep is disrupted. Your cravings go up. Your energy goes down. And suddenly you're stuck in this loop where nothing feels good and nothing's working, even though you're trying so hard. I can't tell you how many women I've worked with who are eating clean, walking every day, taking all the right supplements, but they're still not seeing results. And then we remove or reduce alcohol, even just for 30 days, and it's like their body finally exhales. Sleep improves, bloating goes down, mood stabilizes, cravings decrease, they feel clear again. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. Is this serving me right now? Or is this one little treat actually costing me the clarity, energy, and peace I've been working so hard for? So if you're feeling inflamed, exhausted, foggy, or stuck in patterns you can't explain, alcohol may not be the only thing, but it's very likely a major player. And the good news, you don't have to quit forever to feel a difference. Even giving your body a break for a couple weeks can show you just how powerful it is when it's not constantly fighting something you didn't even know was hurting you. Let's go deeper now into something I know so many of you are dealing with, maybe even silently. And that's your mood, your emotions, and your hormones. Because if you've been wondering, why do I feel so off lately? And you've been reaching for that nightly glass of wine just to cope, this part is for you. I want to start here. Alcohol is one of the fastest ways to dysregulate your hormones, especially during perimenopause and menopause, when your body is already working overtime to rebalance itself. It impacts everything from estrogen and progesterone to cortisol, insulin, and even thyroid hormones. Let's break it down. One of the biggest hormonal issues we see in midlife is something called estrogen dominance. That doesn't necessarily mean you have too much estrogen. It usually means that you have too little progesterone in comparison. And guess what? Alcohol makes this worse. Why? Because alcohol taxes your liver. And your liver is what helps your body detox and eliminate excess estrogen. If your liver is overwhelmed processing alcohol night after night, it has a harder time processing hormones efficiently. Estrogen starts to build up, and that leads to things like breast tenderness, mood swings, heavy periods, weight gain around the hips and belly, increased risk of hormone-related cancers. But that's just part of the picture. Alcohol also spikes your cortisol, your primary stress hormone. You might feel relaxed while drinking, but the next day, your cortisol is up, your anxiety kicks in, your sleep was fragmented, and you're riding this emotional roller coaster that you can't quite explain. And here's the thing. When cortisol is high, progesterone drops even lower. So now you're not just dealing with stress, you're dealing with deeper hormonal imbalances that affect your ability to feel calm, grounded, and emotionally resilient. And then we add in the mood effects. Alcohol lowers your levels of serotonin and dopamine over time, your brain's natural feel-good chemicals. That's why the more consistently you drink, the more you might feel. Depressed or flat the next day, anxious for no reason, quick to snap or cry, totally disconnected from your joy. You start noticing that you're not bouncing back like you used to. Little things set you off. You're overwhelmed, you're exhausted, and the glass of wine that used to feel like a reward now feels like a trap, but you don't know what else to do because you're just trying to get through the day. And I want you to know this isn't about weakness. This is about biochemistry. When your brain and your hormones are constantly being disrupted by alcohol, it makes it harder to regulate your mood, your weight, your energy, your sleep, everything. It creates a chain reaction that keeps you stuck in survival mode. You're wired and tired. You're doing all the right things, but nothing's changing. Let's also talk thyroid for a minute, because alcohol suppresses thyroid function. It makes it harder for your body to convert thyroid hormone into its active form. So if you're already dealing with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's, which so many women are and don't even know it, drinking regularly is like throwing gasoline on the fire. You're already fatigued. Your metabolism is already slow. Your hair might be thinning. And now your thyroid has to work even harder, while alcohol is slowing it all down. And the emotional toll of that, of waking up every day feeling like you're just trying to get through it, wondering where your motivation went, wondering why you don't feel like yourself anymore. That's the part no one talks about, because alcohol is so socially accepted, so normalized, that no one tells you it might be the thing quietly stealing your joy, your patience, and your ability to feel in control of your life. So here's what I want you to know. If you're struggling with mood swings, anxiety, irritability, depression, or just that nagging feeling of, I don't feel like me anymore, you're not broken. But you may be reacting to a substance your body no longer wants to tolerate. And just imagine, how would it feel to wake up clear, calm, and emotionally steady again? Not perfect, not high on life 24/7, but just you. Not the wine-soaked version of you, not the anxious and depleted version of you, but the real, grounded, glowing, fully present version of you. That's what's waiting when you give your hormones and your mood the support they've been quietly asking for. And removing alcohol, even just for a little while, is one of the most powerful places to start. Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk directly to the men listening, or to the women who are supporting partners, brothers, or friends. Because alcohol's impact on hormones and mood in midlife doesn't just affect women. Men are absolutely feeling this too. They just may not realize what's happening. Let's start with one of the biggest players, testosterone. As men move through their 40s, 50s, and 60s, testosterone naturally declines. That's just part of the aging process. But when alcohol enters the picture, especially on a regular basis, it accelerates that decline. Alcohol reduces testosterone production in two big ways. It disrupts the signals from the brain to the testes that tell the body to make more testosterone. It increases aromatase activity. That's the enzyme that actually converts testosterone into estrogen. So not only are you producing less testosterone, you're also turning more of it into estrogen. And that shift has real, noticeable effects on your day-to-day life. Lower testosterone plus higher estrogen can lead to increased belly fat, especially visceral fat, decreased muscle mass and strength, low energy and motivation, reduced libido or sexual performance issues, mood swings or feeling emotionally flat, trouble focusing or following through on tasks. Sound familiar? So many men reach their 40s and start saying things like, I'm just not as driven as I used to be, or I feel like I've lost my edge, or I don't have the same fire I once had. And while some of that is normal aging, a big chunk of it is actually alcohol disrupting your hormonal balance. Now let's talk about cortisol, the stress hormone. Just like with women, alcohol spikes cortisol. You may feel chill in the moment, like the edge has been taken off after a long day, but your body sees alcohol as a stressor. So while you're mentally relaxing, your physiology is ramping up stress hormones. And that elevated cortisol, it wrecks your sleep, increases fat storage, suppresses testosterone even further, and keeps you in a state of low-grade fight or flight, which drains your energy and your resilience. And then we wonder why so many men in midlife feel tired all the time, even after a full night's sleep, frustrated or angry more easily, disconnected from purpose or motivation, flat, numb, or low-level depressed, stuck in cycles of overworking, overeating, or overdrinking just to cope. Alcohol makes you emotionally numb over time. It lowers dopamine and serotonin, the same mood chemicals that keep you feeling content, fulfilled, and able to enjoy life. So instead of bringing joy, alcohol slowly chips away at your ability to feel joy at all. And that's one of the most dangerous parts, because you don't even notice it happening until one day you wake up and think, is this just how it is now? And no, it doesn't have to be. I've worked with a lot of men who are carrying the stress of the world on their shoulders, business stress, family stress, financial pressure, and using alcohol as their outlet. And they didn't realize it was actually amplifying the exact things they were trying to escape from. The fatigue, the tension in their body, the mental fog, the weight gain, the frustration with themselves. It was all connected to this one habit that felt like it was helping, but really wasn't. The good news, the moment you decide to take a break, even for a few weeks, your body starts recalibrating. Testosterone starts to rebound, sleep improves, energy comes back, focus returns. You stop feeling so reactive, and maybe for the first time in a long time, you feel like yourself again. So if you've been waking up tired, sluggish, unmotivated, or just plain off, and alcohol is part of your regular routine, I want to lovingly challenge you to get curious. Not guilty, not ashamed, just curious. What would 30 days without alcohol feel like in your body? What would your energy look like? What would happen to your mood, your sleep, your workouts, your libido? You don't have to give it up forever, but giving your body space to reset can show you just how much of your potential is still in there. So just waiting to come back online. Okay, so now that we've unpacked the science, the hormones, the mood swings, the sleep disruption, the inflammation, you might be sitting there thinking, now what? And that's the part I'd love to talk about, because this isn't about perfection or pressure. It's about permission. Permission to experiment. Permission to question the habits that no longer feel aligned. Permission to see what life might feel like without something that's been holding you back. Maybe without you even knowing it. So what now? First, I want you to start by asking yourself a really honest question. And I mean gut level honest. How does alcohol actually make me feel? Not in the moment, but after. Not what it promises, not what the commercial says, not the story you've told yourself for the last 10 years. I'm talking about the real aftermath. How do you feel physically, mentally, emotionally the next day? Do you sleep well, or do you wake up in the middle of the night? Do you feel energized, or do you hit snooze 5 times? Are you clear-headed or foggy? Are you patient with your partner, your kids, your coworkers, or are you snappy and irritated? Do you crave sugar, carbs, or more alcohol by 4 p.m.? Do you feel good in your body? Or like you're just pushing through another day? Because here's the thing, you already know. Your body has been whispering, maybe even shouting for a while now. And this is your invitation to listen. Next, I want to challenge you to take a break, not as a punishment, not because you should, but because you're curious what life might feel like when your brain and body get a chance to fully reset. This doesn't have to be forever. Start with 2 weeks or 30 days. You don't have to label it. You don't have to make a big announcement. Just give yourself a window of time to gather data, to be a detective in your own life. And during that time, I want you to replace the ritual, not just remove it. Because for most of us, drinking isn't just about the alcohol. It's about the pause, the moment of me time, the winding down after a long day. So let's create a new ritual. Swap the wine glass for a beautiful mocktail with herbs, fresh citrus, or adaptogens. Light a candle and listen to music while you cook dinner. Take a walk around the block after work and let the day melt off that way. Sip sparkling water in a fancy glass on the patio and just be. It's not about taking something away. It's about giving yourself something even better. Something that supports your goals, your clarity, your energy, your joy. And lastly, I want to encourage you to let this be an experiment, not a mandate. You don't need to decide today if you'll never drink again. This isn't black or white. This is about alignment, about feeling good, about choosing what supports the life you say you want. Yes, I promise you. When you feel better, when your sleep improves, when your moods stabilize, when your hormones settle, when the brain fog lifts, that wine starts to lose a lot of its sparkle. So now that we've talked through the science, the symptoms, the patterns, and some ways to begin shifting, I want to bring this full circle with something I call living simpler reflections. Because ultimately, this conversation about alcohol, it's not really just about the alcohol. It's about asking, what kind of life do I want to live from here forward? What do I want to feel like when I wake up in the morning? What do I want my energy, my clarity, and my presence to be like for myself, my relationships, my work, my purpose? We spend so many years on autopilot, doing what we've always done, drinking what we've always drunk, telling ourselves the same stories. But midlife is this beautiful, powerful invitation to pause and say, is this still working for me? And if the answer is no, or even I'm not sure, then you have the opportunity to try something different. And listen, it doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't have to burn your life down or label yourself or explain anything to anyone. You can simply start choosing yourself in small, intentional ways. One choice, one day, one drink, or one non-drink at a time. This is about living simpler, not because you're settling, but because you're finally saying no to the things that dull your sparkle, the things that drain your energy, the things that keep you feeling stuck and disconnected from your own power. When you start tuning into how things make you really feel, you start making different choices, not out of guilt, but out of love. You choose clarity over chaos, nourishment over numbing, connection over coping, peace over pressure. And you remember that you don't need something outside of you to feel calm, confident, or whole. You already have everything you need to feel good, to feel you inside of you. You may just need a little space, a little support, and a little willingness to experiment with what that version of you looks and feels like. And maybe, just maybe, this is your season to rise into that version of yourself. Not the tired version, not the numbed out version, but the version of you that glows, that leads, that rests, that wakes up in the morning and likes who she is, body, mind, and soul. Because that's the heartbeat of living simpler. Not chasing more, not checking boxes, but finally coming home to what truly supports you and letting the rest go. You're not broken, you're not behind, you're not too late, you're right on time. And if no one has told you lately, I believe in you. Your clarity is coming, your healing is happening, and your next chapter is going to feel so good. Not because you worked harder for it, but because you finally got honest about what's no longer working and gently let it go.